Hey, what's going on, everybody? So this was not the plan for today. I had another cooking related video that we're going to put up. I'll post it in the next couple days, but I woke up to a few text messages today saying that Anthony Bourdain had passed away at the age of 61 in France of apparent suicide. I don't know the details, so I'm not going to go into them. All I will say to his friends and family is that I'm terribly sorry for your loss. I can only begin to imagine what that's like. Bourdain was a huge influence in my life. I think he was one of the first pioneers of like doing things different in the cooking world. I always admire that when people create a show that's not your standard kind of in a box generic cooking show. He actually went out there and he made real content with honest people, shared honest stories, and ate incredible food too, and just inspired me along the way as someone who has my own cooking show and loves food and loves culture and music. You know, I have so much respect to you. Again, terribly sorry for your loss. But I wanted to talk about this, even though it's a heavy topic. About 2 days ago, yeah, exactly 2 nights ago, I had this flash and I was like, wow, I really need to share some stories about suicide that I've experienced in my life. But then I woke up feeling like maybe it was just too heavy of a topic for this channel. And I just kind of didn't think about it. And then I woke up this morning to those text messages and I was like, wow, okay, this to me is a sign I need to do this. So I literally just woke up 20 minutes ago. That's why my hair looks extra whatever, and none of that matters because this is a heavy topic. And so as someone myself who I've dated people in the past who have been suicidal. I had a best friend who committed suicide a number of years ago. My old girlfriend's mom committed suicide while I was with her. And I, in truth myself, I have, as someone who's struggled with depression over my life, I've contemplated it. I've never attempted, and I never would, but I have contemplated it a number of times. So I feel like it's just something, even though it's a hard thing to talk about, I know there's a lot of people out there that could benefit from some of the things that I've learned. So I just want to share those with you guys. And first off, if you ever do have any struggles, please call the suicide hotline. I will put the number below, because sometimes just talking to people is all it really takes to make a change, to make a difference in your life. I'm not saying that's it. Sometimes people need therapy and different forms of help, but sometimes just having a conversation or writing a letter. So I am going to open up, I have a separate email account, You Enjoy Life Music, below, and even though it's my business account, I just want to open it up to anyone that wants to write me a letter. If you're ever struggling with anything, I can't promise that I'll be able to respond to you, but I will read them. Just because sometimes having a letter and just being honest and vulnerable with someone is a huge step in realizing that you're actually not alone. One of the number one things in depression is this disconnect. And when we get depressed, we can feel very heavy. You know, it's like this feeling of just nothing matters. What's the point? You see everyone else, everyone looks happy and everyone looks good, and you don't feel that. So you feel disconnected from the world, disconnected from yourself. But the truth is, these are things that most people struggle with. I've talked to so many people in my life and had so many amazing conversations with all walks of life. And you'd be amazed from people who are just normal, everyday, do their thing, whatever, not, you know, super passionate, just working a job, standard job, whatever, to people that are mega celebrities living their dream life, which is kind of where the whole Bourdain thing comes in. People have always said, you know, that's like the dream job. Like, I just want to travel the world and eat food and it would be great. But the truth is there's so many other things that are going on that even though the surface might seem great, it doesn't mean that life reflects greatness onto you. So when we get present to the fact that most of us feel disconnected and struggle, it's just a question of who's willing to share it, you know, then we realize we're actually not alone. So I want to tell a story about my best friend in high school, who took his own life, maybe, I think it was 7 years ago now. So Ryan was, well, I should back up and say that in my high school, I didn't have very many friends. I was taking Adderall medication to help me learn. At least I thought I needed it at the time. I do not take it anymore, nor would I ever. But at the time I was taking it and I was getting straight A's, and I was not very a sociable person on it. I just kind of wanted to do my work and get out of there. But some days I wouldn't take it, or after school, and, you know, I'd play sports. And Ryan, he was the all-star. He was the captain of the football team. He was the captain of the basketball team. He was just like the all-star. When you're walking down the halls with him, like everybody wanted to talk to him, say hello, like game last night. Everybody talked about Ryan. Ironically, we were the same size. We're both small guys, but he just had so much heart and he was so talented that he was truly incredible. So Ryan and I kind of became friends sort of outside of school when I wasn't on my medication. He was like, you're a great guy, you're hilarious, and all this stuff, even though not many people saw it back in school. My friends and I used to joke that Ryan would tell them, like, Josh was like such a cool, fun guy. And they'd be like, him? Really? Him? You sure? Like, he's nice, but it just really crushed my personality. But Ryan was someone who saw beyond that. And one thing I saw with Ryan was that I think because I was someone who wasn't out to judge, and even though we were surrounded by testosterone and dudes, and there was a lot of sort of, being dudes and being gross and weird and all this stuff, I just never really felt comfortable with that. So I feel like because of that, he felt he could talk to me and be honest about some of the things that were going on in his life. Especially as this like all-star quarterback, you don't necessarily want to let people on to like certain things you're contemplating or struggling with. You kind of want to keep up that vision, and that was all he knew. But he felt safe with me to share things about himself that he didn't necessarily share with many people. So I always really appreciated that, and we created this bond. He was probably the first person to ever love my cooking. Like we'd have these sleepovers, and I'd wake him up to like these beautiful bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches and just give them to him, and he would just absolutely love it and be so excited and just grateful to eat food. And that was when I started to realize how amazing cooking was for people, to get to actually share that. So just to kind of go through the story, Ryan went to college. He played football, but I think he just wasn't that size to be in the NFL. Like our coach used to say, if someone that was 6'1" had Ryan's heart, that he would be drafted immediately. And that was kind of a bittersweet thing to hear. Because, I think when you grow up in that environment, and sports are your life, like when that's over, you don't really know what to do. And that's exactly what happened. He went to school, played football, didn't really have the same camaraderie that we had on our team, because we had this amazing team in high school and so many great friends and just like fun. So when he went to college, he was just another guy who was good playing football, and just never really connected. So after school, I think he just, without getting into too much detail, I don't think he really ever found his footing, and he felt very disconnected to life. And we would talk, and he would tell me he'd be on different medication. There was one time he was on suicide watch because he became super depressed. So we started kind of reconnecting because we had lost touch a little bit. And I was telling him about all these things that I was going through, because I had been really depressed and was considering, just kind of ending my life. And then I found this Buddhist book one day on Buddhism, and it kind of changed my whole world. And that can be sort of, for the most part, saved for another video. But this is all right before Brothers Green. So I started kind of sharing a lot of things that I was going through. And I remember having this amazing talk with Ryan, and he was just so happy this one day. He had this like huge shift and this change in life, and I was so excited for him. He was speaking the truth and kind of confronting people in his life that he hadn't. And then it wasn't long after that that I got the call on the way home from Thanksgiving, driving home to like Thanksgiving weekend, that Ryan had taken his life. And it was just such a shock to my friends and I, especially my buddies who we were all played football with Ryan, and we talked about it, and we just could not believe it. Although I, because I had known some of the stuff that he was going through, it made sense. And later I found out that he had switched medications, and there was just some really heavy things going on. And I felt so bad because I don't know, I just wish, it's that feeling of like, had I just called him that week, or had he just reached out, because I had spoken to him a few weeks before and he was doing great. And that seems to be the case. I just read with Bourdain, someone said like, I think Andrew Zimmern just posted on Twitter that he just had like one of the best, most happiest years of his life last year. So it can be sudden, and it can be completely out of the blue. And it's very scary. It's very scary. Because when you love someone, you care about them, and the idea of them not being around anymore is just it's a hard pill to swallow. I still have weekly dreams about Ryan. We're playing football and we're talking and hanging out, and I still think about him, and his memory comes up all the time. His memory lives with me. It's like he was such a prominent person in my life. We had so much fun together. We always had a great time. We never fought. He was just someone who I could be myself with, he could be himself with, and we respected each other for that. It's amazing to have a friend that you just, regardless of what's going on in your world, together you never have any discord. And it wasn't with him like I felt like I was being fake or putting on a front. Like we just had this real connection, and we laughed and we had fun, and we were interested in similar things and music and food. So sometimes still it just kind of hits me. I'm like, wow, he's gone. It's a weird feeling when you can't call someone. You're like, oh, I'd love to share that with him, and it's just he's gone. Or like my wife never got to meet him, so she just knows the memory of him. And so I think what I want to share, and again, I'm not by any means an expert at this, but if you do feel alone, reach out to a friend. You would be amazed. There's a million things you can do to overcome depression, and it takes a lifetime in some cases, or years, but you can make small steps that can make huge shifts and huge differences. And I think reaching out to someone, being honest and being vulnerable, and if someone doesn't get it or they're shut down, that's okay. Find someone else. Listen, sometimes we think the people in our lives that are supposed to be the ones to be there for us, they're supposed to be there because they're family, best, whatever it is. Sometimes we're just like, these are my parents, this is my brother, they're supposed to be there for me in the ways I need. But that's not often reality. And the truth is, with family and relationships, while they're beautiful things in many cases, just because they're family doesn't mean they have an obligation. They might think they do morally, but it doesn't mean that they actually have one. You know what I'm saying? Or it doesn't mean that they actually have the tools. I know a lot of people who have gone to their family and things they've struggled with, and the parents just wall up, because they just don't have the tools. They're too, I know plenty of friends who are like, yeah, I've tried to tell my parents, and my parents just couldn't deal with it. They're just like, I don't know, you're fine, don't be a drama queen, whatever it is. So you need to be able to find people. Maybe that is calling the suicide prevention line. Maybe to start, like I said, write me a letter, the email link below, and just express how you're feeling. Because sharing it, getting it out there, it's like keeping things in our head that we're struggling with, this depression. A huge part of it is not sharing it with people and actually not feeling connected, because you start to feel alone. I know, like, I have this thing, so I was raised in a family where things on the surface were always good, and that was always like what I grew up to believe. You don't talk to your friends about heavy stuff, you don't talk to your friends about sad, depressing things you're struggling with. You're good. So I was the Mr. Deflection. I'm good, how are you? Even when I was at my most depressed, there are things I've never told people, because at my most depressed, I was too ashamed, too embarrassed to actually reach out to a friend. But I always wanted to be there for people, so I put on a front, and everyone thought I was great all the time. And one thing I learned recently was that when you act like you're good, when you do the I'm good, how are you thing, it's really a deflection. So, oh, I'm great, how are you doing? It's like, what can I help you with? What's going on in your life? I was great at that. I could talk to people, I could make them feel better, I could inspire them, motivate them, all these things. However, I couldn't do that with myself. I couldn't be vulnerable. And one thing someone told me recently was, when you don't show up honestly and vulnerably for other people, when you're just trying to help them, they don't know how they can support you in your life. People want to be of support to you. And I'm not saying it's everybody, but the people out there in the world, friends, family, people do, I believe, want to be of support to you. But if you don't show up as someone who needs support, they're not going to know how to be in your life. They're not going to know how they can support you, because one of the biggest connections that people get is being able to have that vulnerability and that honesty and be able to connect. I've created all these past relationships where I'm always supporting friends, so I start to attract people who are like, they love and appreciate my friendship because they get this benefit from it, but I'm not being honest and real with them, so it's not really real. So be honest, be vulnerable, reach out to people, let them know how you feel. And if somebody has a wall up, don't take it personally. That's another huge thing. Sometimes people, they're depressed and suicidal, and they tell a family member, and the member is just like, they can't handle it, they can't deal with it. So, oh no, you're okay, quit being weird, get off it, stop watching those movies, whatever it is. People have their excuses. Don't take it personally. People do what they do. It's not like, it's it has nothing to do with you. You need to find people. I'm telling you right now, whether it's joining some sort of group, or whether it's a mentor, or whether it's someone that you can trust. It might be therapy. In a lot of cases, doing some deep therapy work. I've done a lot of therapy. I've had many different therapists, and I've gotten a lot out of it, because you learn things about yourself that change everything. And what I want to say is that in life, we go through life, I believe, as kids, we start out sort of pure and everything's great. Oh, look at my hand, this is amazing. We go through life like that, and then what happens is, as we get older, all these things pile up on us. We have, we get heartbroken, we get into fights, we get teased, we get bullied, we get picked on, we get made fun of, all this stuff. And then one day you hit this point. For me, it was when I was around like 18 or 20 years old, where I became this self-aware person. I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm this person who makes decisions and has a responsibility for my own life, because all of these things have happened to me, and I'm struggling with them. When I was younger, it was just happening. I wasn't aware of the impact of those things. But one day you become aware, and you're like, oh, I'm someone who has low self-esteem and struggles and is very self-conscious, and depressed. And now I need to actually live a life where I deal with those things, because the truth is, no matter what you think or who you want to blame, you are responsible for your own happiness, and you're responsible for your own life. And one of the biggest journeys in life is really getting to know yourself, and you can always grow. It might not be this like, whoa, even all the therapy I've done, like, I've had moments where I'm like, I'm good, I'm cured, and then it comes back, because it is a lifelong process. So you can get better, you can learn tools, and slowly get better and better and better. Even still, I still to this day, with all the support and help and creating real friendships, finally, that I can actually reach out to people and be vulnerable and be honest, I still need help. I still need support, and I still need those outside tools. So I think what happens is, all these things happen to us. We're getting bullied and all this stuff, and we create these stories, and we had these beliefs about ourselves that we're not even aware of in many cases. Like, maybe we think we're fat or ugly or we're stupid. For me, a big one was I thought I was stupid. Growing up, my parents always had me in different I was in like learning support. Like when I was a kid, I was in like the learning support classes, not like learning, I wasn't, didn't have like some serious mental disorder, but I was in learning support, and I had a learning disability. And I was diagnosed with ADHD, so I was taking medication. And because I was in these special classes where I had extra time to take tests, and I had teachers and tutors and stuff like that, I believed myself to be stupid. I did. And it wasn't necessarily a real thing, but I would see people in school, and they were getting straight A's, and they were being called geniuses, and I knew that I wasn't a genius. I knew there was no chance of me being a genius, or a chance of being like this really smart person, and that was just it. That was the separation. So because of that, one of the big impacts was that I actually never really read a book until college. I would fake books and cliff notes, and I could read, but I hated reading. And it wasn't literally until freshman or sophomore year of college that I actually read a full book and started loving books. And since then, I've written between cookbooks, science fiction, philosophy. I've written, tons of books and published many of them. And before, I wouldn't even believe that was possible, because I didn't like writing. I was always getting bad grades in English and history, because writing just did not work for me. It was because, though, I had this self-limiting belief that I was stupid, and I was especially stupid in those areas. Now, on Adderall, I was science, math, aced them, no problem, because my brain could focus and I could get it. But off the drug, I was just back to stupid me, who was kind of okay at a couple things. Like, I can look at myself now and be amazed that I'm able to cook and play music and write songs and juggle and write books and create friendships and garden and have all these passions and all these things that I love to do. But before, like, I learned these things, honestly, I was good at nothing. I started playing guitar when I was 16, and I was decent, but again, told I couldn't sing, told I wasn't very good, that I was never going to make it, and all these things. So I just believed those things. And these are beliefs that all of us have. We all have something. It might be different than what I have, but these are beliefs that every single person has. They have something that someone told them from a young age, and that story has been playing out. So every time you see yourself, let's say it's like the I'm fat. Maybe you were told that as a kid. I know, especially with women, but kids too. People get bullied. Our parents pick on kids. They don't even mean to. Oh, you're getting chubby. Don't eat that. It's like every time you sit down and eat, you think about that. Every time you take off your clothes and you look in the mirror, you see I'm fat. You don't see I'm beautiful. You don't see, you know, oh wow, like I made some progress, like I feel good about myself, I love my body. You see I'm fat, and that becomes a problem in your head. And then you look at life and you go through life in situations like that. Or I'm stupid. These are probably two of some of the biggest ones. You know, I'm a loser, I'm an idiot. You know, and I've been there. I've been a loser. I've been bullied, picked on, all this stuff many times. And it wasn't until I actually had the self-confidence in myself to stop those things. And now those things don't happen. Now I walk into a room and I feel good about myself. And listen, there are times when I'm down and I don't, but then I have to remind myself and write and journal and talk to friends and stuff, to have friends in my life that remind me, like, you're fucking awesome, man. And that is a big thing, because I believe that a lot of people they don't have the right support around them. So if you can even just have one person in your life that can remind you who you are, they know who you are, they know who you want to be, because every day we're changing, but they know what you strive for. You strive to be great, to feel good about yourself, be self-confident. You know, you can talk to them and they can remind you, like, screw all the haters, you know, whatever it is. So if there's one thing you got out of this video, I hope it's just to be honest and to be vulnerable, but also know that we all struggle. And I think that is the biggest thing, is that we're all not so different. I've managed to have so many amazing conversations from all walks of life just by being vulnerable and just by opening up and giving people the space to share who they are without judgment. Because if there's one thing I care about in life, it's making people not feel judged, you know, and feel good and feel inspired to do things that they want to do. It's like when you live your dream, you just want other people to live theirs. Like, oh yeah, you know, you want to cook, like, you think it's too hard? Get over those stories. You know, you want to feel good in your body, you think it's too hard? Get over those stories. You want to make new friends? Like, stop thinking that you're not good enough, you know? You are good enough. You are loved. You are loved because you're alive, and we're all connected. We are all one. That was the one thing that one of the big things I took away from Buddhism, was that life is all connected. There's no separation between you and me. Like, you wake up in the morning, you feel what you feel, you do what you do, and you see yourself as this different entity than everything around you. But we're all part of this world together, and the more we can get connected and present to the fact that we are all similar, depression can start to alleviate. Disconnectedness can start to alleviate, because everyone I've talked to in all those amazing conversations, most people feel alone. And like I said, I've met people who are super wealthy and successful, you know, and they're just as depressed as people who have nothing. And sometimes, actually, oftentimes much more depressed than people who have very little, you know, who are just grateful for their life. So don't start, like, if you could shift one thing, look at people and just try to remind yourself. This is something that really helps me when I go out. Try this today. When you go outside and you look at someone, just think, that's me. You know, don't think, oh, that freaking, oh my boss, or oh, that person again, or that person's. Just look at them and say, hey, that's a reflection of myself. That's me. That's a piece of me right there, you know, and that's someone who probably needs help and needs support. And especially with people who pick on you and bully you, those are the most tormented, most hurt people of all. You know, hurt people. So whatever case you're in, remember, you are not alone. Somebody else out there has struggled. Even if they don't look like it, even if they look like they're successful and they're doing great, chances are they feel alone in many ways. And you extending a hand, you being vulnerable, is a huge step. I love you guys so much. Again, for the family of Bourdain, terribly sorry. And yeah, it's... God, okay. Remember, it's going to be okay. Just be honest, be vulnerable, stick it out there, be yourself. I'm going to go now, and more cooking videos and things to come. But for now, I hope you sit with this and take some time to write and just see the world a little bit different today. So much love to you guys.